Okay, let's kick off then. So hello everyone, and thanks for being in this amazing event, Microsoft 365 Live. My name is Pedro Reis, and I'm here invited today to share with you 5 principles to get things done. First thing, many thanks to our sponsors to make this event possible, and for the organization of the event. We hope everyone enjoys the event and the different sessions that we'll have today. My name is Pedro Reis. I come from Portugal. So maybe in the end, or any question that there is, if anyone speaks in Spanish, I will be I will understand, but my Spanish spoken is not so good. But I believe we'll be able to communicate well. I am from Porto, in Portugal, so in the north of Portugal. I am team leader at Natixis. If you don't know, it's an investment banking company, part of PPC, one of the largest banks in Europe. And I work with multiple teams: software development, business intelligence, and big data. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, MCSA and BI reporting. I'm one of the founders and leaders of the group Power BI Portugal meetup. We do events almost every month, and sometimes even more than 1 month. And I also try to be a regular speaker at events like this. I come to speak and also to listen to many of the sessions. I always learn a lot with you guys. So let me share with you the first of the 5 principles that we will have today to get you to do things done. So principle number 1. Well, maybe if any of you have a feeling that you don't know enough about something, well, everyone around you looks like they have everything under control. Have you ever had this feeling? They all look safe. They don't seem like to have any doubts, any questions, any fear. And you wonder inside your mouth, in your mind, and you doubt yourself. So there is actually a cognitive principle behind it, where that you assume that your knowledge is much more limited than what you think others know. And the principle we are talking about is called the imposter syndrome, and it was found out by a psychologist, Pauline Rose-Clance. So in this syndrome, it states that everyone is susceptible to a phenomenon that is known as the pluralistic ignorance. And this pluralistic ignorance means that we each doubt ourselves privately, and we believe that we are alone in thinking about this, because no one else raises their doubts in their mind. And so it's just to really know how hard are tasks for other peers in their work, how difficult they find certain tasks, how hard they work, or even how much they doubt yourself. There's no easy way really to dismiss feelings that we are less capable than other people around us. And so sometimes we can feel intense feelings of imposterism that can prevent you from sharing great ideas or trying something that you would actually excel at. So, believe it or not, even though I know about this phenomenon, I still feel like imposter many times. And for instance, a personal example, in 2017, I participated in my first SQL Saturday as attendee, and I was an inspiring session. And the guy who was next to me, that we went there together, he told me, oh, this guy is one of the 3 or 4 Portuguese data platform MVPs. And I was really inspired by his session, and I dreamed one day to also be able to present at a SQL Saturday. And that day came 2 years later, and I was terrified that they would ask me very difficult questions, and after my session, that I was going to be found as an imposter. Well, I did the session was good, the feedback was good, I was able to answer this question, I was safe. But, you know, that feeling came again in many, many situations. And I found out that I was not alone, that many famous people who excel in their field also feel it. For instance, Tom Hanks, no matter what we've done, there comes a point where you think, how did I get here? Where are they going to discover that I am in fact a fraud and take everything away from me? Michelle Obama, I still have a little imposter syndrome. It doesn't go away, that feeling that you shouldn't take me so seriously. What do I know? I share that with all you because we have doubts in our abilities, what our power and what that power is. Lady Gaga, I still sometimes feel like a loser kid in high school, and I just have to pick up myself and tell myself that I'm a superstar every morning so that I can get through the day and be for my fans what they need me to be. All these famous people also have this feeling. Many, many more. If you look around, you will see. So, principle number 1, the imposter syndrome. What personally has helped me? First of all, knowing that it is actually that it exists and it's normal. Secondly, is if you know that it exists, it's normal. Just accepting to feel like an imposter sometimes. This will lighten up the burden on you. Okay, you recognize it, you accepting it. Third thing, talking about it. I can give you an example. I did this presentation just once before in my company in a talk in Atixis. And after the session, there were a couple of people that came to talk to me and say, "Hey, Pedro, it was really nice to hear about your sessions. I thought I was alone. I feel like the imposter, and I didn't know that there were other people that would feel exactly like me." So it was very rewarding to get to know this feedback. Maybe some of you now know about this. It's interesting for you too. Other thing that helped me is putting myself in situations outside my comfort zone, recognizing that I will be outside my comfort zone, but still trying it anyway. It also helped me just to widen up my barriers, my self-put barriers. And knowing that others feel the same way, it just makes it a bit lighter to accept and feeling this syndrome. When I came to Natixis, I still felt like the imposter, but it was the time that I felt less like the imposter. So each time it becomes easier and easier and easier. So be comfortable with yourself. You can do it. So this is principle number one. Principle number two. And Barney says, is it the hot and crazy matrix? No, it's not. This is a serious conference, so it's not going to be the universal hot crazy matrix. So let's go to the actual principle number two. And principle number two, it's you see here a blank chart and two researchers, Justin KRUGGER and David Dunning from the University of Cornell. They published a study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in December '99. And this study talks about the relationship between our ability at a certain activity and the confidence that we have in that ability. So you would expect maybe, okay, the ability, the confidence rises linearly as you increase your ability, or that would be some static relationship between the two or something of the kind. But actually, it's not true. What happens is as you start increasing your first steps in a new skill, your confidence increases much faster. And then you reach at a certain point where you see how much you still have to learn, and you see, oh my God, I still have to learn this, and your confidence, your ability increases, but your confidence decreases. And you come to a place which is the valley of shadows, and then you gradually, okay, you pick up yourself and you continue learning and learning, so your ability increases, and your confidence starts to increase a bit linearly like this. So you can see here the complete chart, and this is called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you can be at the peak of Mount Stupid when you have overconfidence regarding to your abilities, and at the valley of despair when you realize how much you still have to learn. What I found out was that I am able to produce interesting content no matter the stage that I am. So, for instance, when I'm the peak of Mount Stupid, I can still produce a lot of content. I see guys like doing YouTube videos for 7-8 years, and they tell that when they look back at their videos from their first or second year, they tell, I cannot believe how bad these first videos were. But they still did it, and they just got it out. They got their content out. So even at the peak of Mount Stupid, you can produce something that can be interesting. Actually, people treasure a lot of content produced by someone who explains the difficulties they are feeling, the challenges, and while doing something. And not just a story of someone who is the supreme master at something already. The key point is not to despair when you are at the bottom point of the valley of despair. Be patient, you will get there. Don't hesitate to share your content. There will be more people interested in it than you might think. So, also an important point is that after you see these two principles, they are actually in opposite quadrants, right? Because the imposter syndrome is when you actually feel that your actual ability, your perceived ability is lower than your actual ability. So this relationship here, this one is bigger, the ability with regard to the confidence. Well, the opposite is the Dunning-Kruger effect, when your perceived ability is much lower than your actual confidence, which is much higher, like you see here. So these two are actually opposites. So principle number two, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Don't despair, you will get there. First of all, don't overestimate your abilities. Then also, don't despair when you are at the bottom point and you see how much you have to learn. Gradually, slowly, you will get there. value the knowledge of others. The guys that are really guru, you will see that they pass through this learning curve that is quite challenging, and you can produce something interesting at any point. Principle number 3. So let's see another card. And this time it has two axes, one containing performance and one containing arousal. The year is 1908, and a new study is conducted to investigate the relationship between performance and the degree of arousal, or we can also call it challenge, the degree of challenge that we face. And this study was developed by two psychologists, Robert Yerkes and Joel Dodson. The expectation would be that either performance would be constant and not depending on the level of talent, or otherwise linear, it could be the case. So the same thing as we did before. So performance, according to the level of talent, would not change, or it could increase, something like this. But in reality, what happens is that there is also a curve. Okay, and in this curve, there are many different points that you will find in the curve. So let me try to explain it for you. So the YERKES-DODSON law is an empirical relationship between pressure performance, and this law dictates that performance increases with the psychological or mental arousal, but only to a certain point. When levels of arousal become too high, then the performance decreases. So in this chart, we can see that optimal arousal comes at a point where you are challenged enough. So when you are at this point, you might be in the sleep state. Here you might be in boredom. Here you might be in slight mild alertness. And if you start being too challenged, you will get in stress, maybe anxiety, and even panic. So this can happen. So what happens? You can observe this happening in sports. For instance, sometimes you just need to find the right challenge. Someone to keep you pushing your boundaries and telling one another. So the example of Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, without each other, maybe they wouldn't be so good. They keep pushing one and another to the right level of talent, and they search for that optimal performance point. We can also see it in tech. For instance, with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs rivalry, quoting Mission Impossible, to find a hero, you must first create a villain. So principle number 3, the YERKES-DODSON law. And in this principle, the tip is find your optimal talent point and your performance will thrive. Not challenging enough and not too overly challenging that you come into the zone of the anxiety, panic, anger, or breakdown. Principle number 4. So in World War II, after Germany was conquered, Japan was being heavily bombarded without surrendering. At that point, there were 4 options discussed. Option number 1 would be a conventional bombing of the Japanese home island. For instance, what you might not know is that a single firebombing attack in Tokyo in March 1945 killed over 80,000 people, just a conventional bombing. And despite those heavy losses in Okinawa and the bombing of Tokyo, the Japanese refused to surrender. Option 2 would be a ground invasion of the Japanese home island, which would probably, and by the studies they did, cost hundreds of thousands or even millions of American troops to achieve that. Option 3 would be to do a demonstration of the atomic bomb on an unpopulated area. And option 4 would be the use of the atomic bomb on a populated area. All of these, of course, are all terrible actions. And it's not the great example, but what I want to share with you, why this example, is because this phrase, imperfect action is better than imperfect inaction, is attributed to Harry S. Truman, who was the president of the United States, the 33rd president, who served from 1945 to 1953, succeeding after the death of Franklin Roosevelt. And soon after succeeding to the presidency, authorized the first and only use of nuclear weapons in wars of the 2 bombings. So the original quote is attributed to him, but by all means, I do not support what happened in the war. It's just to tell you that there wouldn't never be a good option to do that. And the sentence, the origin is from Harry S. Truman. There are other more current examples, for instance. One of them is a recent interview from Mark Zuckerberg in a podcast called Masters of Scale, You can check it out if you are interested, where it states that if you are not embarrassed by your first product release, you're releasing it too late. Why? Because the assumptions of what the user wants are never exactly right. So you need to test a real product with real customers as soon as possible. Basically, the moment you have like a bare bones version, you need to get it out. So it's the fastest way to build something users can't resist. Showing your work early, showing it often, and above all, don't hold it up in your garage. Um, Show it often. Don't worry. Don't leave it in your garage because it will old and you will be wasting your time. More fatally, you will be wasting your opportunity. So a slight variation that is imperfect is perfect. The quote from this, I like more the other quote. So imperfect action is better than perfect in action. And another way to put it is imperfect is perfect, but I don't like so much this one in software development because we actually want that perfect things to be perfectly working without any bugs. But I wanted to share what was the reasoning behind this quote from Mark Zuckerberg, just so that you don't assume that you know what the users want, just put it out there. So let me show you another thing. So for instance, what you can do is, if you have ideas, try to frame them. When you think you have a great idea, hey, I think we should do initiative XXX. It's really great and it can bring a lot of improvement for our team. So maybe your managers will not approve this. It will be very difficult. So what can you do instead? You can propose something. We should implement initiative XXX. We estimate it should take 15 man days to implement. We currently have 50 users using it each day. I spoke with 5, which reported a total of an average of 20 minutes a day sending emails about the process. This means that we can save 75 hours of work to each active user, so a total of 3,750 hours or 468 days a year. This is a much better way of framing your ideas and getting approval from managers. Principle number 5. The hot crazy matrix? No, it's still not that. We'll leave it for another opportunity for you guys to check it out. So principle number 5. Have you ever worked in a project which had a medium or long duration, like 3 months, 1 year, something like that, and incredibly the project was just completed in the very last day? Have you ever received like a mandatory training to do with 3 months to complete and you've done it on the last day? Well, I've experienced this in the first person many times. Even in my company Natixis, I did a recent project to migrate 10,000 reports from a BI system to Power BI, to EasyMorph and other systems. It was a 2-year project, 70 business teams, 20 OLAP cubes, 20 versions of new releases of EasyMorph during that period, 8 versions of Power BI released in that period. So, but magically, the project appeared completely in the latest delivery, right before the end of the year frozen period. So why is this? Because the principle behind this is called Parkinson's law. And the behavior and inefficiency behind it is observed by Cyril Northcote Parkinson, a British historian and author of an essay which first appeared in the London Economist in 1955. Parkinson's law states, work expands so to fill the time available for its completion. Think about it for a moment. You have a deadline for a deliverable, but you also have a lot of things going on at the same time. When are you really going to put the effort? Most likely at the end. Well, this is also one of the things that our methodology helps to prevent from happening through splitting work and delivering value in small increments. However, when you think about it for some longer term projects in our personal life, so many things, sometimes it's not easy. Knowing about this principle, what can we do? Well, there are many things we can do. I will share my personal approach. Knowing and fighting this principle will make you a much more productive on your personal and professional life. So you can know it and fight it. You can also set deadlines for yourself. Propose something not yet fully prepared. For instance, this session is a perfect example. I proposed it a couple of months ago and it was yet not ready. I just proposed and I would assemble it if I would get the invite to do it. So also knowing and fighting this principle will make you a much more productive personal and professional life. Vocalize your deadlines with others. This also helps a lot for other people to ask you about it, how is it going, etc. And if you put a deadline and you express it to other people, this is also very powerful for you. Get agreement on deadlines with others, also another thing that can help you. And with all this together, you can become a much more productive on your personal and professional life. So, as a wrap up, so here I am fighting my imposter syndrome by doing a public presentation about topics I am not expert at the top of the Dunning-Kruger mountain, while walking more and more into the Valley of Shadows, realizing how much I still have to learn. Challenging myself to a point where I can experience personal growth, sharing an imperfect presentation that just barely ready enough in a date that I set for myself to force myself to prepare this presentation much earlier than I would normally would. Well, I learned a lot while doing it, and I hope that you guys also learned something new. Here are some links if you want to take a screenshot of it, or you also get the document in the end. If you want to learn about any of the 5 principles that I mentioned, here are a couple of resources and links that you can get. And also, next slide, I will show you also my contacts. Here you have it. So my email, my LinkedIn, and also my blog, leadingwithdata.net. Feel free to reach me and anything you want. I hope you enjoyed this session, and it was a pleasure for me to be here. So thank you very much, guys.